Good day, ladies and gentlemen. This is Sarah van Grennen, aka Mr. VG, and this is a fantastic series of videos that will hopefully help you in understanding the basics and the interpretations of statistics, specifically box and whisker diagrams. Now, box and whisker diagrams are a firm favorite for examiners. Okay? It's a firm favorite for examiners because you have to understand what's really happening, and it can tell you a lot about the data. So what I'm going to do is I want to do this video with you by looking at this specific example. So it says here the following diagram shows the data comparing two workers' monthly salaries for the past year, worker 1 and worker 2. You will see straight off the bat that worker 2 is not completed. Okay? Worker 2's manager couldn't finish the box and whisker diagram, but she has the following information about worker 2. First of all, the range was 6,000, while the median was exactly between the minimum and the maximum. Complete the box and whisker diagram for the second worker. Give the value of the interquartile range for worker 1. How many months did worker 2 have a maximum of 5,000 Rand worth of sales? That's question C. And lastly, if a worker 2 only worked half day, which worker would you consider the better salesman or salesperson? Let me not go salesman, salesperson. I want you to try this one yourself by looking at that information, reading it carefully, trying, copying it over, and then you watch the rest of the video. When I look at this first question, I love asking these kind of questions where you really have to understand. So when I look at worker 1, let's just look at some interpretations. First of all, it has a minimum of, roughly speaking, about 500 and a maximum of about 9,000. So that means that on the slowest month, okay, they only sold 500, and on the busiest month, 9,000. Does it mean much? No. Not really, because there's so many things to consider when you are looking at a business. Okay, if you, for instance, are a swimming business, okay, you're in the business of selling swimsuits. Well, this would be normal because very few people are going to buy swimming costumes in winter or in fall, while in other months it might be good. If you are in a business that has sales throughout the year, this might not be good. I'm talking about consistent sales throughout the year. This might not be good. But in terms of business, you cannot just make a decision based on what you see. There's a lot of factors to consider. But let's look at worker 2 and try and complete the work that was done. So let me erase those little dots that I've got there so that I can do worker 2. First of all, it says the range is 6,000. So in other words, I've got to go to this interpretation, look at worker 2, I've got the minimum, I've got quartile 1, I've got quartile 3. What do I need to complete this? I need a maximum and I need the median. So if I look at the maximum, I'm going to look at the range, because range is the maximum minus the minimum. When looking at substituting that in, that means our range is the maximum minus 1,000, which is 7,000. Now there is a simple, straightforward way of doing this as well. You could simply say, well, if the minimum is 1,000 and the range is 6,000, if I take 1,000 and I add 6,000 to it, I'm going to get the maximum, 7,000. You don't have to do the fancy mathematics here, but use your brain because you can do it. Next up, we're talking about, there we go. Let me first draw it in before I go to next up. Then I have to look at the median. Now they tell me the median is exactly in between my minimum and my maximum. I've got my maximum now as 7,000. So what number is exactly in between 1,000 and 7,000? Well, 4,000. Okay? Again, you can go and throw some mathematical formulas in there and say, well, 1,000 plus 7,000 over 2. Or you can just again use that wonderful brain you've been given. Exactly between 1,000 and 7,000 is 4,000. So that is my median. Ta-da! I have completed my box and whisker diagram. Now going on to question B and C, I still need those completed box and whisker diagrams. First of all, the value of the interquartile range of worker 1. Start with the formula. The interquartile range is Q3 minus Q1. Now Q3 is 7,000, Q1 is 4,000. So if I subtract the 4,000 from the 7,000, I get a beautiful 3,000. Does it mean much? No, not really. It just kind of tells me that the middle 50% of your data is 3,000 apart from one another. Now, is it good? Is it bad? It's only good or bad or interpretable when I compare it to something else. In itself, we can't really say whether it's good or bad. So let's just go over to the C question. How many months, okay, now there's an important word. How many months did worker 2 have a maximum of 5,000 Rand worth of sales? So first of all, if I look at worker 2, the 5,000 Rand means that, and they're saying a maximum, so I've got to look at smaller than or equal to 5,000. So going to my sketch and finding 5,000, it is at the Q3, which is 75% of the year. So 75% of the year, your worker 2 has not exceeded 5,000 Rand, which means 75% of 12 months. So that means 9 months worker 2 actually sold 5,000 or less. At this moment, ladies and gents, as an examiner, I love to now throw you in the deep end a little bit. So in other words, if worker 2 worked only half day, now I turn the tables. I ask an open-ended question. Which worker would you consider a better salesman? So you can make a case for worker 1 or for worker 2. But you've got to be able to motivate your answer. You've got to be able to tell the examiner why. Now, I'm going to make a logical leap of faith, as I tell my students, that if worker 2 works double the hours, I'm making the logical leap of faith that my sales are also going to be double, which means that my box and whisker diagram is going to kind of look like that, with my maximum sales being 14,000. Here comes the thing. Is my assumption right? Is it correct? Not at all. My assumption is not correct, but it is my gut feel, okay? because worker 2 could actually come in only to help during the busy times, and therefore they've got the good sales. If they were there the whole time, it might not be the truth. But if I just look at comparing now worker 1, the worker 1's box and whisker diagram, and I compare it with worker 2's box and whisker diagram, well, then I can safely, according to my assumption, say that worker 2 would be the best worker. Okay? And that would be my answer. Now, because they're telling me motivate your answer, I could go and look at this and say, well, even if we just look at the median is 4,000 there, and the worker 1, which works full day, is at 5,000. Think about it. Half of your months in a year, worker 2, which works only half day, has an average of 4,000, while worker 5 or worker 1 has a total only of 5,000 rand. So for all the hours worked extra for worker 1, they only bring on average 1,000 rand more in on a month. So who's the better salesperson? I would say worker 2. Could you argue that worker 1 is the best salesman? Well, you can. You can argue that by, say, looking at the maximum and say, well, worker 1 could be the best because they have the highest sales. You don't know whether worker 2 is actually going to pull in that amount of sales. You've just got to be able to motivate your answer by interpreting the sketch. The examiner will then actually look at both interpretations and give you the marks. If you understand, if you argue from a point of understanding. Oh, I love these questions. Ladies and gentlemen, please tune into my next video, which is going to be box and whiskers, but also with ogives in, because ogives are definitely going to be in your exams coming up. Have a beautiful, amazing rest of your day. Cheers.